everyone, I'm Alli and welcome to my channel. Today is day 3 of my HoliDIY 2020 series where I am taking popular decor trends and showing you ways you can DIY them and offering decorating tips for each style. And today I wanted to do something a little fun, and that is mid-century Christmas decor. This is very retro inspired, bright and colorful, fun and funky, and I'm just so excited to share this first DIY with you. First up, I wanted to make a mid-century inspired wreath using a 12-inch foam wreath form and 2 silver tinsel garlands. I got the tinsel at Dollar Tree, and one of them has that atomic shape that is very common in mid-century decor. All I did was take both tinsel strands and wrap them all the way around the wreath form. I used hot glue to hold the tinsel at the beginning and the end. Next, I took a classic red Christmas bow, which is perfectly retro, and attached it to the bottom of the wreath. While this is so cute as is, I wanted to make it even cuter by adding some multicolored mini ornaments in a retro color palette. All I did was put some hot glue on the ornaments and began placing them where I wanted them on the wreath. I made sure to hold the ornaments in place until they were bonded to the wreath. And what I did was cluster the ornaments closer to the bow and then kind of made them scatter up toward the top of the wreath just to add a whimsical effect. Mid-century themed Christmas decor takes you back to the 50s and 60s. It is bright, it is colorful and fun, a little bit kitschy, and just very retro and vintage. This style incorporates mod shapes and designs, as well as pulls inspiration from the space age, which you'll see a lot of like atomic shapes or things that are just space inspired, like little stars and elements like that. Also very common with this theme is tinsel, metallic items, and things that come in either very angular or unique rounded shapes. Next up, I am doing a mid-century modern take on an advent calendar or a Christmas countdown. I'm using 2 white Dollar Tree mini trees. If your DT doesn't have them, they also sell inexpensive mini tinsel trees at many different stores. First, I removed the bases off the trees because they won't be needed for this DIY. I then fluffed the branches to form 2 halves of a tree. I then used white wire to tie the tree pieces together. I definitely recommend using zip ties, I just didn't have any white or clear ones on hand. Once the tree is assembled, you can put it aside. Next, I took this Dollar Tree mini wood tray with the heart-shaped handles because I felt like that had the most mid-century vibe. I also took the outer box for those mini wood drawer boxes that Dollar Tree sells. Then I painted both pieces with 2 coats of bright red acrylic paint. Once the pieces dried, I used hot glue to attach the box to the center of the tray. Then I glued in a few pieces of styrofoam into the box. And just to conceal the styrofoam, make it look a little bit nicer, I cut out a square of white felt, cut a small X in the middle, and then glued it down on top of the styrofoam. Then I placed the tree inside. Now, on one of my very first videos on this channel, I made a framed Christmas tree countdown by numbering mini Christmas bulbs with a silver marker. And I decided instead of remaking that, I would just give these bulbs new life by using them for this tree. The tree base serves as a holder for the mini ornaments, and then you can place them on the tree each day, and by Christmas, you'll have a fully decorated tree. different ways that you can go when approaching your color palette for a mid-century themed Christmas. You could do traditional with red and green, but the hallmark of this style is making those traditional colors pop. So along with a bright cherry red green and like a Kelly green, you might want to add in a magenta and a lime green. Now if you want to go for a more colorful look, you'll want that bright cherry red with Kelly green and lime green, magenta, an electric blue, silver, and white. Like I had already mentioned, this style has a lot of tinsel, metallics, and felt. Next, I'm using this wood cutout ornament sign from Dollar Tree. If you don't have one of these, you could also cut an ornament shape out of Dollar Tree foam core or poster board. First, I painted the center of the sign with white acrylic paint. And after the paint dried, I took 2 complimentary pieces of Christmas scrapbook paper, I got these at Joann's, and placed the ornament onto the paper so one piece would cover the top of the ornament and one piece would cover the bottom. Also, as advice, make sure to flip the ornament over so that the traced pieces line up. I didn't do this here, so it was a little bit complicated. Next, I used Mod Podge to attach the paper pieces to the ornament sign. I also added a small piece of glittery gold scrapbook paper to cover the remaining part of the top of the sign. And to finish everything off, I added some glittery gold ribbon along the seams of the scrapbook paper. Then I used these gold letter stickers from Hobby Lobby to spell out Merry in the middle of the sign. And as an extra detail, I added some of this Dollar Tree metallic holly to the top and attached a loop of that gold ribbon to the back of the sign so it can be hung up on the wall. Next, I'm making a fun and colorful felt ornament garland. I started by creating some various ornament shape patterns and then traced them onto different colors of felt. Let me know in the comments if you want me to make these ornament patterns available as a download. After tracing all of the shapes, I cut all the ornament pieces out and I made a total of 8 ornaments. Then I glued each of the felt ornaments down on top of a contrasting color of felt and carefully cut around the pieces, leaving a thin border of the contrasting felt showing. After all the ornaments were cut out, I used smaller pieces of felt to add some extra details to the ornaments like lines, color blocks, and circles. Once I had the ornaments decorated with felt how I wanted, I decided to use some various rickrack to the ornaments to complete that retro look. It was fun to use this rickrack because I've actually had it in my sewing kit since I first learned to sew as a kid, so I'm glad that it actually got some good use. And finally, to assemble the garland, I used some pink nylon string from Dollar Tree, tied a knot at both ends, and then put hot glue on the back of the ornaments and pressed the string in. I used a ruler to make sure the ornaments were evenly spaced. I measured 5.5 inches from the center point on each ornament, so that means there was about 4 inches of string between each ornament. about Christmas trees, and mid-century trees are so much fun. If you want to go a traditional route, look for a green evergreen tree that is a little bit sparse in the branches. That will really bring home this kind of eclectic look that the mid-century style has. But here's where it gets fun. Mid-century was the decade of the tinsel tree. You can get them in silvers, pinks, whites, and they are just so cool and so much fun. So if you really want to go all in on a mid-century theme, maybe consider a very oddly colored tree. As far as ornaments go, they tend to have those very traditional shapes when you think of Christmas ornaments, so kind of like teardrop shaped, all kind of coming down to a little point at the end, and just very, very cute metallic ornaments in the colors that I mentioned. For my ornament project, I'm using these Dollar Tree clear plastic ornaments because they have a nice retro shape, and this color palette of acrylic paint. Mod shapes and designs are a hallmark of mid-century style, so I'm going to replicate some of those patterns onto my ornaments. For this first one, I started by painting various ovals and colors I thought worked really well together. It took 3 coats of paint for it to be fully opaque. Once the paint dried, I used a black paint pen to draw on some of the atomic or starburst type shapes on each oval. I made sure to vary the placement and size, and I think this turned out so cute. For the second ornament, I painted on these square shapes that reminded me of old TVs. I layered them in a line going down the front of the ornament, and I didn't paint any shapes on the back because I felt like that would just look too busy as it showed through the ornament. After 3 coats of paint, I used a scrap piece of paper and some painter's tape to act as a guide for the straight line I drew with my black paint pen. I drew the line to look like it was going behind the shapes, and then I just added a few more details with the paint pen. That does it for my mid-century modern DIYs and decor tips. For some reason, I had so much fun making these compared to even all of the other DIYs that you'll see in this series, and that's saying a lot because I enjoyed and loved making all of these, but there was just something so fun about pulling in some like vintage and retro styles and playing with them in 2020. Don't forget to give this video a like, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any time I post. And I linked my 2020 HoliDIY playlist in the description box so you can check out my 2 previous videos. That's all I have for you in this video. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on my next one. Bye!